questions can arise. Quote, did I do the right thing? Unquote. Quote, what is the meaning of this all? Unquote. Things you maybe didn't think about as much. I mean, to some degree, we all did when we were younger, but now you're thinking about it much more, and it's haunting you, and it's haunting you in your dreams, and it's haunting you if you even can look in the mirror. Ladies and gentlemen, I do want to say this. So hear me now. I have good news for you. This is not a crisis. I will say it a second time. Midlife crisis is not a crisis. This is a perfectly natural part of human development. That, in fact, is a gift. Yes, it's a gift. This midlife time, this identification, questioning, is a pathway to introspection. It's a naturally occurring gateway. The universe has granted you this gateway to help you find yourself. See, in the first part of your life, and I'm talking to folks here that are successful, potentially. What I mean by that is oftentimes in the Warrior Seed Project, it may sound like I'm talking to the downtrodden, me, myself, I came out of a rehab, etc., etc., etc. No, I am now talking to, yes, it can be that person coming out of the jail, rehab, homeless, but I'm talking to people now who seem like everything should be balanced, that seem like everything should be just okay, great, in fact. But even the very wealthy are subject to this, trust me. So, let's turn it around. First of all, how about being grateful for surviving to midlife? This all by itself is an absolute blessing. Of course, you're going to question things. It's natural. You're supposed to question things. A doubt can be 1,000 times more effective than a sacred truth. This blessing, this blessed time in your life has been sadly mislabeled, maybe not purposely, just organically, it just happened over time, has been mislabeled as, quote, midlife crisis. And society likes to create and exaggerate that wonderful, horrible word, crisis. Modern society likes to use these words, or even create them if they're not even there in the first place. These crises, unquote. Do not, if you feel this emptiness, this hole in your being, because that's what it can feel like, I will say this to you. And perhaps I should have said this to myself a couple of years ago. Do not attempt to fill this hole, to fill that hole with more. Let me state clearly, you cannot fill this void, this empty feeling, with more things. Cheating on your spouse is a dopamine rush. And that dopamine rush will not take away that empty feeling. Except for maybe for a few seconds. The sports car thrill is temporary. Working to have exhaustion as your trophy will leave less room for joy, thus making you feel more empty and making the whole thing feel worse at those moments of questioning. This time is not a crisis, it's a gift. It is natural and happens to most humans, period. In fact, if it wasn't happening to you, is when I would worry. The very best way to show thankfulness for this gift is not addition, but reduction. Pause. Take time to be quiet and still, even if your egoic self hates me for suggesting it. Quietly meditate, enjoy nature and simplicity. Ignore the noise and distractions, pointless scrolling, constant attempts to fill the void with things. Be grateful for what you have. Be grateful for the fact that you have accomplished a great deal of things. You have survived this life for 40 or so years, whenever this happens. Congratulate yourself from this. Celebrate it. It is just that now you have entered another phase in an eternal game of transitions. It's never about a destination, folks. It's about transition, transformation. No need to regret what you have built. Simply accept that now is a time to adjust, to develop. Folks, this is not a curse or a crisis. This is an opportunity. You are a little older, wiser. Use it. Be still, be calm. Only through residual calmness will we now know transition. Will we now be able to form our new destiny? It won't come from trying to fill in the emptiness with a bunch of dopamine fixes. The car, the extra affairs, spending a bunch of money, working too much, etc. Chasing pleasure, or worse, chasing numbness, will not make this situation go away. The situation is positive anyway, so you shouldn't want it to go away. That's the trick. In fact, like I said, it'll make it all worse. So pause, reflect. It is scientifically proven, yes, that time in nature calms our chemical hormonal responses, helps alleviate depressions. This time is a blessing for you, and you should be enjoying it. But we have been programmed to see this blessing as a, quote, crisis. That's why I don't like the phrase midlife crisis. I'm often skeptical when I hear the word crisis in the news, to be honest. The ancients considered midlife an absolute blessing and a time of wisdom. Imagine you have the wisdom of being older, of being decades older, and hopefully you still have a somewhat young body to go function with. It's a true blessing. You're far more interesting now than you were when you were, 17. But the society worships youth. Famous psychologist Carl Jung says, "We are born at age 40, unquote. This is when our soul wakes up. We needed to develop and survive, or even thrive and succeed in our early adult life. But now is time to calmly embrace our gift and become who we really are. No amount of toys, no amount of new sex partners, no amount of extra forced work drive will lead us to our true selves. In fact, they can lead us away from it. They can lead us to things like addiction. All addiction at its core is the same. Quick hit dopamine center pleasure responses. Chemically, hormonally, electrically, yes. I am talking pure science now, folks, not mysticism. Your pleasure centers become overloaded, and it's never enough. Like trying to satisfy a terrible narcissistic partner, it never happens. Try as you might, you will never fill that gap with things. You need to look at long-term, quiet, transformative joy versus happiness. Think of happiness, temporary and quick dopamine fix, as porn, and joy being true love. maybe as an example. Do not betray the midlife transformation gift. Do not betray it by offering it a sad chemical dopamine hormonal electrical addictive response. So many people have said, and trust me, I have met them, wealthy people, very wealthy people, in fact, that I've worked for in the past. They'll say at this time of life, quote, I just don't know. It feels like there just should be something more, unquote. My friends, there is something more. And if we remain calm and do not attempt to fill this feeling with dopamine quick hit fixes, you will then change that statement. Instead of saying, I don't know, quote, it just feels like there should be more, unquote. Through calmness, through stillness, through meditation in time, you will say, I get it. There is more. There is something more. And I found it. I am more. Unquote. War Seed. Meditation is a weapon. A weapon against the world that can have us believing in phony crisis. And having you believe that you're not more. And that you have to fill in the gap with quick fixes. They don't work. Because they scientifically, chemically, hormonally can't work. But you can do the work. You are more. From my new home in the mountains, Hagerstown, Maryland, thank you all. Have a beautiful day.